Hello and welcome to another episode of Page Burners. We're working our way through the Malazan books in publication order. We are going to be reading books both by Stephen Erikson and Ian Esselmont. We're currently on Memories of Ice, so we are a couple of books away from meeting an Esselmont book, but we read approximately 100 pages every week from some edition of the book. Right now, it is the Kindle edition that I've got the reading schedule on. I am considering redoing the reading schedule for Memories of Ice to do fewer chapters each week. But the schedule is posted up on the page chewing forum. If you're following along with us for the schedule, today's discussion is going to be chapters 5 and 6. And yeah, that's pretty much it for next week. We'll probably do chapters 7 and 8. I think that's everything. Everybody will go around introducing themselves, also talk about what they most want to discuss from these two chapters. For me, it's that flying table uh, and the fact that Krupp is back. We have a new member today. Mirka, could you start us off with introduction? Sorry.
Hey, thanks. I'm really glad to be here. This is my first time joining the discussion. I'm a huge fan of Malazan Book of the Fallen, and Memories of Ice is, one of the best books in the series, without a doubt. So, very excited to talk about it. I agree that the flying table is a huge topic, and I also really love that scene just before the flying table appears, where Anna Mandarake arrives to the camp and the tension gets really high really quickly. I think that's a really interesting situation. So I'd like to discuss that.
Very nice. And I meant to ask, have you read any of the Esselmont books too, or have you mostly read the Book of the Fallen?
Yes, pretty much all of them. All of them, I think.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So that's Jarrod and Mika. We have two veterans who've read everything. Shannon's read some Esselmont, and I know Carl has too. I've read none. Dan, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dan. Everybody knows me, obviously. What I would like to talk about is, I think, like the Silver Fox and her mother sort of dynamic and the whole thing that happened. Because I remember when I was reading it the first time, that was one of the more interesting topics. Then again, dynamics and things that happened. So I want to know what everyone's thoughts were on that.
Yeah, that is a very interesting thread. And Jarrod is
Hey, I'm
back.
Jarrod. Yeah, I'm popping in today. All right. Yes, Jarrod, and you can find me on the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, but also I am here to talk about. I love that little conversation between Rake and Warlord Brood, discussing the Crippled God and also Silver Fox. In very little words that kind of just hint at things.
Yes. And Shannon.
Yes, my name's Shannon, and I am a simple man, so I am most excited to talk about the Kachain Chamal, your velociraptors with sword arms. I think are just amazing, and I love them, and they are so insane they should be stupid, yet I find them terrifying and great.
Yes, yes. I would also like to discuss the bit of a missed opportunity there for the cripple god being the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, because because the Kachain Chamal apparently went extinct before the cripple god fell on the planet. But as far as we know. But yes, I will add that to my notes. But I think mostly all of this is from the second chapter that we read for today. So maybe we start at chapter 5 and get to these topics as we go. I know, Jarrod, usually you have to leave early, so we'll try to get to your topic before you head out. But
I think
chapter
Jared's topic
5
is end of chapter 5.
was that? Oh, really? Okay.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I read them. I read the end of chapter 5 and chapter 6 together yesterday, so I'm a little hazy on what is where. But I think if I remember correctly, this chapter starts with Talk again. Talk and Tool and Lady Envy and all our Seguli friends.
That's it? Maybe. I'm trying to
Yeah, I think
remember.
we get the fight between
Uh,
Talk and one of the Segulai.
All right.
So cool.
uh,
Oh yes, is this where we get the whole exposition of like when Rake went to their island and all the things that happened?
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when we find out a bit more about the Segule culture and what the marks on their masks mean, or holes in their mask, one of those. And so we find out that the second of the Segule are here, and their agenda also has something to do with this Panion Domin seer as well. Apparently, he's been sending priests to their island to try and convert people, and they're not happy about that.
That's
so,
right.
so they want to come here and pick a fight with him over it.
It's kind of funny. He just wants to. They just want to go there and say, "Hey, knock it off,"
Yeah.
and that's it.
I mean,
And we know they're
everything
good
with
at picking
yeah.
fights. So they're like, we will cross the ocean. I don't know where they came from actually, but we will cross the ocean to come tell. Yeah, it's an island, right? Yeah, so they have to cross the ocean. That makes sense.
everything with the Segula is like funny. Even both are
Yeah,
not funny themselves, but basically everything is like super funny with Animander Rake going there and all their, I don't know, weird hierarchy and things.
yeah. And Rick barely escaped from there, and now they want him to come back
Yeah.
because they want to make sure that he gets the right position in the hierarchy. Yes, all of that is quite hilarious. Like when Envy objects to Lady Envy talking to him, like having a conversation with him, and she says, I can't exactly hold conversations with my servants, nor is your friend Tool a social blossom flushed with enlivening vigor.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's very funny.
yeah, this is a lot of I think I've talked before about how much I like Erikson's humor, and really like the kind of humor that he writes that I enjoy. Mostly, I think book 5 is where it really starts, but these bits are pretty funny too, and they're their own kind of humor, which I appreciate quite a lot.
I think the whole concept of those, really dangerous warriors being slaves to a sorceress,
That too.
it's pretty humorous.
Yeah, and she just has to like look at
Well,
them to make them behave. Go ahead, Shannon.
well, I was gonna say, and I just love that they. I think it was the third mock. He describes them as the punitive army of the Segula, and it's 3 of them. They sent 3 of them to go in, and we don't know it. I mean, well, from just how they've been fighting Talk, I mean, or Duel, we can kind of believe that these 3 can probably do a lot. Now, how well would they do against an army of the cannibals? Who knows? But
Hmm.
these guys are pretty powerful.
Yeah. And I also like the appearances being deceptive bit that is explored even in like this little subthread, because th- from the first fight you would think that Tool won hands down. He's the dominant, and he won in like 3 seconds. And Tool but tells Stock that if he had had time to draw the sword, I don't know how I would have fared in that fight. And now he's nervous about if the second guy challenges him, if the guy with 2 marks on his mask challenges him, he's probably not going to do very well against him. So I like that additional breakdown that we get of that scene from before, where you could walk away thinking that Tool is a badass warrior, which he is, but and these other guys maybe aren't as good as they think they are, but maybe they are.
Do we know how Lady Envy is basically keeping him a servant? Like, it hasn't been mentioned. I assume it's some sort of magic, but it
Yeah,
hasn't
it
been
is.
explicitly
It
mentioned.
is. She was actually talking to Talking Tool, and he was telling her that sorcery makes me nervous, and you're a sorceress. So we know she's a sorceress. She's obviously a sorceress of quite some power to be able to control these guys. And she also gives us a lot of hints about some history here. She tells us about how powerful the ritual was that created the Talanamas, and she tells us about his sword that is invested to an appalling degree of sorcery. It cannot be broken, can't be chipped, cuts through walls effortlessly. So she spells out how powerful Tool's sword is right there. And how would she know all that? How would she have all that knowledge? So she's obviously somebody who's in tune with high levels of magic, and most likely has been around a long time.
But do you think do you think because she's so powerful, they consider her higher rank than the second, or it's just because she's a magician, she doesn't count because she's not fighting really?
That's how I took it.
No, if they counted her, they would be trying to fight her. That would be that's why they were attacking Animander 8, because and why they're attacking Tool is if they think somebody's a good fighter, they're gonna attack them.
Maybe they did at the time.
I got the sense that they aren't following her willingly, in the sense that if suppose they considered her the dominant person, then they'd be bowing to her willingly. But I think she's got some kind of glamour on them, like the time when she forced Stock to apologize, seemingly, when he didn't really want to. It seems that she's doing something similar to them also, because they're off doing something, and then she controls them with seemingly just a look. So it seems like she's got some kind of mind control thing going on here with them, and they are unwilling followers.
I think she also came up in a conversation between Rake and Brood later in this chapter, so they know of her, I think, and then she's kind of, maybe historically they have done things together, so I think she has been around for a while. Yeah, and her sorcery is really powerful, and that's how she can manage to just make puppies out of Sagulai.
Yeah. and she has a sister named Spite. I think somebody makes a joke about how Draconis must have really amused himself with those names.
Talk. Would
Talk.
you
Well,
name
I wonder if
your
there's
children?
something to that.
No, go ahead.
What'd you say? I was gonna say I wonder if there's something to that, with she's controlling these people and her name's Envy. I wonder if there's something there, she's controlling them. Her name's Envy. Maybe she has that power over people to control them, and maybe I don't know what Spite would do. Make people hate her. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I thought, okay, this is interesting. I always thought the names were about their behavior towards each other, like Envy envied Spite, and Spite was spiteful towards Envy. But it makes more sense that it's about other people. I have no evidence for my theory. It's just sister.
Yeah, it does mention in here that.
But I was.
Oh, it does mention in here that she was a companion of Animander Rake for a little while, and wandered with him and Kaladin Brood, and this was long before the events happening now.
Well, and we know she's a daughter of Draconis. They told us that, and he's been gone for we don't know how long. I mean, Animander Rake's been carrying around his sword for a while, so we know she's ancient.
Deal is. We just know he made a sword. We don't know what else, why he's important.
Well, we know he made a sword, and we know Animander Rake turned that sword on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we don't know when. You're right. We don't know how long ago that was.
well, we also don't know why and what Draconis did before, I guess. I don't know. But interesting dynamic, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I would call my children bad, but yeah. It does remind me, there's like a meme post of like, oh, I'm gonna call my children like anger and something else, and I'm gonna put one, treat him badly or something, and the other treat him nicely, and be like, oh, they're gonna be like really bad children, but the dynamic is gonna be really interesting.
They're gonna be funny to read about.
Dan,
yeah.
I mean, Dan, I named my daughter Wrath. She turned out just fine. So I don't know what your problem is.
I mean, some people these days are giving both children like fancy names, like Khaleesi and other things. So I wouldn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how well it's gonna turn out for them, but
does
They're
anybody
still pretty
else,
little.
does anybody else here read XKCD? The drop tables.
Sometimes.
The drop tables name thing. Anyway, I'll move on. That'll teach you to sanitize your databases. Anyway,
yeah, it does say right here she ensorcelled them, forced to serve her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right in chapter 5. Yeah.
I have to say, I don't like her very much. I don't know how you guys like her chapters, but she's just so mean.
Yes,
she's a horrible person.
Yeah,
I love her, but she's like a bit like a villain, but like a charming villain.
I agree with Dan. I think she's got a lot of charisma. Maybe it goes to that NB name. I don't know, but she's got charisma. But she is bad. I mean, there's no arguing that. She's controlling these 3 Segula, and yeah, we don't know how else this is going to go for 2 who let him talk.
And Shannon and Dan, she's controlling them too.
Yeah. No, and mine, she's just...
That's why they like her.
I don't know. She's just so similar to the lady character from the Black Company that I love it. It's like I don't know. It's hard for me to.
So you kind of have to like her because
I don't know.
she's.
I'm pretty sure that Erikson had her in mind when she wrote. Like I don't know. It sounds very similar to me.
That's an interesting idea.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like reading her character, but I don't like her. She's so far not proven to be very likable to me. I agree.
Also, I think Dog is really likable, and like her being mean to him specifically, I feel very, very protective of Dog.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
She's just flirting. They're just flirting, not being mean.
But she's not seriously flirting. Like he can't take her seriously.
Well, I mean, you don't know.
They're not endgame.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Anyway, then she asked them to draw up a bath to keep them busy. That was funny. And then wait, do we? Yeah, Night Chill. There's some discussion about her in this. Yes, when Whiskey Jack asks Quickpen to summarize, and they bring doom and gloom about Night Chill, and whatever's going on with Baran, and Whiskey Jack tells them to watch him closely and interfere whenever they think that is necessary, which is nice. I mean, I'm happy knowing that Whiskey Jack sort of got Baran's back,
Yeah. Well, it's also in their best interest, I guess.
In their best interest, yes, but yeah, you're right. Like it feels like, oh, we are protecting ourselves as much as him, but knowing that Whiskey Jack is the origin of this request, and that Quickpen is who's tailing Baran, I feel comfortable.
Yeah. They're nice people.
Yes. Something else that I seem to recall during, I forget where it came up. It might have been in the little bit of a history lesson that NV gave them, but the Queen of Dreams that they keep swearing again at, or like calling upon when I think they did that a lot in the first book, maybe the second book, was apparently someone that Anamander Rick used to hang out with / date. Yeah, that was an interesting tidbit. Not that I know what to do with it, because I still don't really know who the Queen of Dreams is.
So Envy talked about how her, Anamander Rake, Kaladin Brood, the Lady of Dreams, and Osric all traveled together as a party. And I think, and I feel like Jarrod, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is this like some of like Erikson's role playing? Like was these people?
Good question. I'm not sure about that one. But
I think Erikson's talking in the past, like this was some of the stuff that they role played before writing the books, was Anamander Rake and crew going on adventures.
See that?
But yeah, so I wonder if that Osric guy's ever going to pop up again. Don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably never hear about him again. So, yeah, and they talk about a lot of things. I think this was one more of those. I forgot how much information is in this book. There's some discussion about Dragnipur too in this conversation between Whiskey Jack and Quickben and Mallet. And we also find out that Nightchill's Warren is the Warren of Darkness. I don't know if that becomes relevant later. But yeah, she's apparently remote and cold, and yeah, and I guess Quickpen doesn't yet bring up what he knows about Burn. That was last chapter, right? When he went to that old witch person and talked about why Burn sleeps, which I think we encountered again in that conversation between Brood and Drake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That mention of Night Chill in that conversation, I think is really interesting, because I think it's the Quick Ben who says there were other Night Chills before. And
Yes.
this character repeats in history. And I mean, even after reading all the books, I still don't quite know who Quick Ben is and how he became who he is. So I always wondered if this was a hint of, him being there in all those previous ages and, maybe encountering Night Chill. That would mean he's very old as well.
Interesting.
Or one of his souls is, I don't know.
There is an explanation for Quick Ben somewhere, but I don't remember where it is, so I don't want to give anything away if we
I
haven't
feel
come
like it
across
might be in book 4, so I'm biting my tongue too right now.
I think the thing that you guys are thinking of is probably in this book, but I could be wrong. but we know why he became powerful, let's say, but there are some things about him that we still don't know at the end of the 10 books.
No. Yeah, I also
That's
think
true.
that what you think about is in this book
Yeah.
later on.
We learn why he can use different Warrens. That is one thing that because we know that already. He can use he can access multiple Warrens, which is weird, and they will explain that at some point.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know.
But that doesn't mean him remembering all those previous Night Chills, or maybe not remembering. Maybe he just read about them. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. She seems to have used. Sorry, go ahead.
He says that she appears in a lot of histories. The name appears again and again, and he was wondering if it was the same one or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this section is from Quick Ben's point of view, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there have been other Night Chills. Yeah, there's room for interpretation there. It's
Sure.
about, whether he read or knows. But yeah, when we get to that origin story, we'll discuss some of the nicknames or things that people have called him in the chapters that we have read so far, which you may or may not have noticed. Yeah. Then I guess we move on to a conversation between The Mibe and Paladin Brood.
One is bad one.
I think, and Corlat is here too. I think they're discussing Silver Fox. Might be a good time to talk about Silver Fox. Who all wanted to? I think it was Dan. Yeah, you
No.
wanna?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting because like she's sort of taking her life, her life force, and it, at least to me, it was kind of connected to our discussions for the sci-fi book from last week, because we talk a lot about motherhood and being discarded and used up, and in this case, it's like actually like physically what maybe some people feel like. They feel like, oh, my children just it's like, oh, they use you because you sort of spend your time and your money and everything as they
Parasites.
grow up, and yeah. But in this case, it's literally like they're taking her life force, not just like sort of figuratively. So I don't know. It's like I don't know. If I would see that, I'd be like, that's kind of evil, I guess. You know what I mean? But she's good, I guess, because she's on the side of the good guys, it seems, the way she's written and everything else. But she's doing something really terrible. I guess she has no control over it. So who is actually guilty of it? Is it just the Planet Mass as a culture that are guilty of it? Of this crime? Or
The drawing of the life, you mean?
yeah.
I mean, it seems that the necessity for it is because the Telan Warren is dead and she needs to draw life from somewhere. I think, in fact, that's the conversation they have right now about why she's sucking the life out of out of this woman. But I'm not sure if she knows, because that she's the reason why her mother's aging, which seems, for a child growing up as quickly as she is, that seems somewhat unobservant of her. But because someone asks her, I forget who, the Mibe, to go have a conversation with Silver Fox about the fact that she's drawing life too quickly from her and ask her to slow down. And she says something to the effect that it's like asking a baby, like a normal baby, to eat less so that, there's more for everyone. But like, I almost got the impression that it could be that the Mibe thinks that Silver Fox doesn't know that she's, or at least that she's not doing it deliberately. It's almost like she can't help it, that when she needs a force of life, she draws on her. I don't know if she's realizing that she is drawing on the Mibe.
Well, there was when Silver Fox and Mike went to the discussion with everyone else, they say it then, and then she's shocked because I guess she didn't know before, but now she knows, right? But I guess someone must have predicted, like, oh no, that Bonecaster at that point must have known that this would happen, or maybe not.
I think they had no idea. Like in
Okay.
the scene in Gardens of the Moon, they weren't
Yeah.
even sure what the outcome of that sorceress ritual they conducted at that time would look like, because somebody one of the people who did the ritual, they said that she's going to have two souls in one. And now they think Belladin is here too.
Yeah.
And they keep looking for him, are unable to find him. But she's such a mishmash that they weren't sure what the end product would look like. I don't think they had any idea that she would draw upon her soul. I mean, they did get her consent before. I mean, does it count as consent? They brought her here, and this, you will now give birth to
But
this
doesn't she
child.
say that she didn't know this would happen or something? I thought that she said something like that in this chapter. Like when Mike says she doesn't expect this to happen or something, or it would be like this. I thought she said something like that. And at the end of the
maybe she just
chapter,
expected
basically,
to give birth to her, but then not the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because she
I
is
thought
like
so.
at the end of a chapter, she's like basically despairing. She wants to kill herself, right? And I do like that part. It sounds bad saying it, but I like that you, like, many times you would just see like, oh, because they're on the good side, she's gonna be stoic. She's gonna be like, well, this is my part. I'm going to be sad, but I'm going to do it. But here, she's like, this is too much, which is, to me, is a lot more realistic.
Yeah. And also
what
she
would
can't do
happen.
anything to change it anymore. Like, it's done. And I think she realizes that she made her choice, and now this is how it's going to end for her.
But what do you think of like the Triste Andy preventing her basically from killing herself?
Yeah, I don't know. The Raven, she promises that she'll do something about this, but if I remember correctly, Corlat stopped her from trying to kill herself well
Yeah.
before that. So yeah, that just felt like almost misplaced compassion. at and I don't know, like, I don't think she has a plan. And to the Mipes point later on, she says, like, even if she stops right now sucking the life out of me, you're just condemning me to be an old woman for decades. And she's not even, I think she's barely in her 20s. So it is a cruel kindness trying to keep her alive at this point.
And do they
Hmm.
need her to be alive because they need Silver Fox to grow more? Is that the other reason? Which is also very dark.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
Well, she does mention to them that she can sense the different personalities, I guess, inside her, and they did ask her to let them know if Night Chill was coming to the fore, and if Tatasale would be on decline, I guess. So maybe they want to still use her to know what's going on with Silver Fox.
Like an alerting system, which is very, very brutal and sad.
Yeah, it's also not very
Still
charitable
dark and sad, yeah.
yeah. I'm kind of hoping that's not true.
The
But
interesting
you're right.
question, yeah,
Yeah.
the interesting question the Maibi asks at the start of that conversation is, what if Koloa's right?
Yes.
She's the one who asked that question.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Trying to get herself killed again, I guess. I don't know.
And I think Brood, was it Brood? He says somebody tells her to let them know if Nigel is coming to the fore, right? And she says, why? So you can kill her. She doesn't actually say that. She thinks to herself, I think it's Brood. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll just, come up with an alternative plan if that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just found it interesting because the way that Corlett is written, she's written as like she's the good guy, she's saying the right thing. But when I think about it, I'm like, this is a bit weird in a sense. Because if she doesn't have any plan to fix the situation, which I don't think she has, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
just
know.
found it
Sometimes you
interesting.
pull people out of a deep depression, and then once they get over it, they are kind of happy that you did. Other times it's, why did you do that to me?
Yeah.
So
But there's no, there's nothing, like, I can't see it fixed. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, that's completely fair. I feel like Corlat, at least, maybe the others around her have some ulterior motive for keeping her around. But Corlat, at least, I think, is coming from a deep place of compassion. That scene, I think it was in the next chapter when she runs off and I think what we're talking about just now, she tries to call upon the spirits to come destroy her. Corlat comes and picks her up, practically treats her like a child. And she is. This is, again, like with Felicin, it was so easy to forget that she's a child, right? And wasn't easy to be compassionate towards her. But here, there's so much compassion, and it's compassion for almost an old woman, but really, she's a child too. And yeah, it's interesting, all these characters who you have to keep reminding yourself are children.
Yeah. Well, but the opposite is for Silver Fox, which everyone says, oh, I couldn't do anything to a child, but she's not a child. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
That's not how it works. She's functionally, for every intent and purpose, a very old person,
Yeah.
right?
And same with the warlocks in the second book, right? With the Wiccan warlocks who are all ancient spirits who are inhibiting children, which is interesting that reversal, the
Yeah.
adult feelings we have towards children and the feelings of protection that we have towards adults, the sort of giant mishmash that Erikson is
Yeah.
creating in our minds about about these humans.
Which is to me like why I don't like when the whole discussion of the beginning when Keller is saying, "Oh, we need to destroy her" or whatever, and then everyone is like, "No, we can't harm a child." I'm gonna call that child. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But then when I can't remember, is it Calden Brood that says it's like, "Oh, we shouldn't do anything because we don't know. She's very powerful. We don't know who she's aligned, so it's a bit we need to wait." Like that makes a lot more sense to me than the argument of like she's a child, so we shouldn't. You know what I mean? Because if she
Yeah.
was an adult, then I'm sure Quick Ben and everyone else would they behave differently?
Yeah, that's a very good point. The entire conflict of this book, oh, well, like not the entire one, but a big portion of the conflict inside of that camp is Whiskey Jack protecting Silver Fox just because she's a child and she doesn't want her to get hurt. But yeah, it's a good point to think about it. She's actually not like what, you know.
Yeah. And I think it also boils down to who's doing the reasoning. Whiskey Jack. And I think at this point we can say that he's proven to be a fairly compassionate person, especially, you know, we got insight into how he thought about sorry, for instance, in the first book. So it's unlikely that he's going to feel any venom towards definitely someone who looks like a child, even though sorry went around killing people as far as he knew. Or
I
just
did
looked
have the same
scary.
objection in the first book, if you
That's
remember.
true.
So I'm
That's-
consistent.
Whiskey Jack is just too compassionate for the
Yeah,
cold reasoning that you're suggesting.
True. True. Maybe it's because I like Keller. Maybe that's why I'm biased toward.
You like Calor?
I-
Okay.
I like Keller.
Wait.
I like villains, and he's kind of funny many times.
Okay.
So,
Fair.
like him falling down the hole is very funny.
Falling down the hole?
Yeah, if there's like who is it? Quick Ben creates a hole under him. And he
Oh,
just
that's right. Yeah. That happened. I forgot. Yes, that was funny. And then he ran for it when he started climbing back.
Yeah, that was a very funny scene because he's like, "Oh, you know, you're talking about me. They're not really." And he's like, "Everyone talks about me."
Yeah. That's hilarious. And oh. And Krupp shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I forgot that happens. Back to Krupp. Who was happy to see him? Raise your hands. Only raised hands allowed. Okay. Some people not so happy to see him. That's fine. I'm happy enough for all of us.
No, I think this was the right amount of crap. It didn't overstay the welcome like in the first book, I think, actually.
Well, he just appeared, so
Yeah. Well, I can take him at like small chunks, I guess.
yeah.
Just not a whole chapter with him.
I agree with you, Dan. It was just enough crap.
Jarrod, I'm counting on you to be on my side here.
I love Krupp.
Yes,
Krupp's
thank
great.
you. All right.
He's very, I mean, it was the funniest thing when he sat at the head of the table among, people like Kaladin Brood and Anna Mandarake, and he's like, let's sit at the head of the table.
And Carl, why is he so mad at him? I thought they were friends. Like, sure, he showed up out of nowhere and he didn't expect him there, but I guess maybe he's seeing him as sort of an embarrassment to the Darujistan contingent, and so he needs to keep discipline here and is telling him off before anyone else does. Kind of like one of those angry parents who discipline their children before someone else gets a chance to.
Maybe.
But yeah, I felt bad for Krupp because of how Call was being mean to him. But he's like just water off a duck. He doesn't. Krupp doesn't care. just barges right in and gets what he wants.
Yeah. It's very funny when he says it's like, "Oh, I'm speaking for Master Barak," and they're like, "Well, did you ask him?" And he's like, "No, I know what he didn't have to tell me." Like, that whole line was very funny for me.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah. He didn't have to. I just knew this is what he wanted.
Yeah. It's like, or like,
And Krupp did bring us the Tri-Guild Trade Guild in this book. That was, I mean, that's kudos to him. Like, I love the Tri-Guild.
Yeah, they're very
Tri-Gale.
TDG. Sorry, Mika, you were saying something.
No, I was just saying, yeah, they're a nice addition to the whole mix of support to this army and their objective.
Yeah.
we ever get like a point of view from them? Because it sounds like they do a lot of like fun adventures. So it sounds like it could be I don't know.
I think in a later
Maybe.
book we follow them around a bit.
Okay. Seems too good of a setup, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. And they're talking about how can we cross bridges and everything's broken, and Krupp is like, I have a way. And the trade guild.
It does always take me a second though to remember that this stuff is like before book 2, because it just automatically feels like, oh, it's after, but it's actually before.
Or in parallel, I guess. I don't.
Yeah,
in parallel, I think right now we're probably still before. Maybe later in the book we'll catch up to them.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like the reading of the Deck of Dragons in this chapter, and they said, Kalam is the assassin of House Shadow. Wouldn't that mean that it is not before, but like kind of at the same time? I guess I'm a little bit confused about the timeline.
Well, it's the reading of the deck is kind of fortune telling, so I mean, it could be before, but yeah, they do. Yeah, I actually have it written down here. So here's kind of an overview of it. It Obelisk dominates. I don't know what that means. The Soldier of High House Death to the right. The Magi of Shadow, which this person said was the first time they saw it, was maybe meant a grand deception was at work. The Captain of High House Life, and this person said maybe it holds hope, but it was shaded by Hood's Herald. And then finally, the Assassin of High House Death, which was a new face, and then a couple paragraphs later, they identify it as Kalam. So that was the whole reading.
Did they say that? I thought they said at some point like, oh, something is starting in several cities, but it hasn't started yet, or it's just at the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I thought.
No, but if in Deadhouse Gates, also the uprising starts during the book. Yeah. And Paran has news of Felison being sent to the mines. That's where the book starts. So we're at least slightly concurrent.
Yeah.
With it.
And at the beginning of this book, they mentioned how Seven Cities was getting ready to erupt. But yeah, we don't know. I mean, and we're on a different continent, so who knows? I mean, it could have already erupted, or it could be still coming. Like they don't have TV at this point. They don't have the internet.
Just dinosaurs with knives. Undead dinosaurs with knives.
Yeah, but because we've already read everything that happened on the other side, it feels like we're going back in time, right? Because we already know.
True. Yeah.
Well, since they're just getting introduced to the Tri-Guild, I do think that puts this past, because we know that Dujak sent the Tri-Guild to help out in the last book. So that would put what we're at right now as earlier than that, because Dujak is just learning about the Tri-Guild.
But that happens towards the end of the second book. So it could still be. They're probably they overlap at some point, and they're roughly parallel. But yeah.
I think we already know that they are parallel because Paran knows about Felison being sent to the mines.
Yeah. You should have just done like a 20 point of view, sort of exactly parallel.
interleaving.
Yeah.
I bet someone's done that.
Perfectly chronological.
Yes, this happened in this year at this time.
Yeah, I'm sure someone has an actual chronology of everything correctly put in order.
And after this, is this where we talked about the deck of dragons, and then the giant flying table happens about this time. Well, it was in this chapter, right? Yes. Paran gets told that his bridge burner stole the table, and then he makes the four of them bring the table back.
Yeah.
We knew that there were several more that stole it in the first place and got the heck out of that tent. But instead, now there are only 4 people, and they say, "Can we ask some more people to come help us?" Like, no, I think they need their rest. We're leaving early. That was brilliant.
Well, it was their idea, I'm pretty sure. So.
Yeah. They made promises about, how they can cheat the game and win all the money, right?
Yeah.
And then they failed at it, and now they're seemingly doing a test run of how they can successfully cheat at this, maybe, or something. I
That's
don't
what
know.
they wanted to do.
That is what they wanted to do, but they had to return the table. And then Krupp was attached to one of the legs of the table as the table came flying up. Because before we get into that, I think we should probably talk about Kaladin Brood and Anamander Rake before Jarrod has to leave.
The table, though. Like, do we know where the table comes from? Like, where did Kaladin Brood get it?
Oh, yeah, Fiddler and Co. made it. And sorry, Shannon, do you want to tell? Yes.
No, you're saying it right. Yeah. They made it. Yeah, Fiddler and they made it as kind of like a deck of dragons on a table, and then the Mott Irregulars stole it, and it became Kaladin Brood's map table, and then now they stole it back, and now they're having to return it.
I see.
And now it became a card itself.
Yes. Oh yeah, and now it became a card. Yes, because Silver Fox painted Paran's face on it. It's an unaligned card.
Really? I think
I think she told Paran that she painted it, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I missed that. Cool.
I didn't know that. Cool.
I seem to recall it.
I thought the face just showed up.
That conversation between Silver Fox and Paran in the last chapter, I think she mentioned it. Like that's how she brings up.
Yeah, she definitely declared him to be a new unaligned card in the deck of dragons.
Right.
The master of a deck.
Totally missed that. Thank you.
Unless you're wrong.
Unless I'm wrong. Yes, that's all. There's always that possibility.
Yeah, I don't know if Silver Fox painted it herself, but she told Paran that he was on there. I don't
know why I assumed that I don't know if I assumed that she painted it or if she told him. I think I may have concluded that just from the fact that she knew of it. I'll see if I can find it. But yes, let's do Kaladin Brood, Anamander Rake conversation, then we'll come back to that giant flying table.
Yeah, what I like about the conversation is, it just gives us some more information. They realize that Burn is dying, and they realize who it is, and they do mention that the Queen of Dreams in their conversation that they used to hang around with. So we get another mention of her. And then this is where we find out, I think, that if her Warren dies, then it's a pathway into every other Warren, and they all die. And they go back and forth about how bad that can possibly be. And I just thought there was a lot of little hints in there about the past, about what's coming up. They kind of figure out that the Chained One is behind this whole Panny and Dorman thing. and I think they come to the conclusion that they probably gonna have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And
There's
it's a very short conversation to have
Yeah.
all that information thrown in there.
It packs quite a bit, you're right. And we find out that I forget how and where we find out, but we get a lot of information about Brood's hammer, which I'm not good at mythology, so tell me, is that supposed to be like Thor's hammer? And, that can
Be.
destroy anything? But
Yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier when Envy was talking about the past. She talked about how Brood disappeared for a while when Burn fell asleep, and then when he came back, he had a hammer that supposedly can awake Burn. So
right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
But then I think also it says there somewhere that Byrne chose him, like he was the only one that was, capable of carrying that hammer. And I think like what they talk about with Anamander Rake is the decision that the Brood needs to make, because right now Byrne is dying and her body is being poisoned by the crippled god, and that there is that choice between helping her and unleashing crippled god to the world, or letting crippled god poison the Byrne and then killing her eventually anyways. So any of those options, the world is doomed pretty much. And I think they talk about that? Do I remember that correctly? But I guess I was quite confused about this because they were the ones chaining the crippled god to her body back then, right? So they did this to her, maybe unknowingly,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
he
they
would
mentioned
poison
they
her.
I
mentioned
didn't even make that connection, but you're right.
yeah, they mentioned that it was thousands of years of his spite that ended up poisoning her. And you're right, yeah, it's he's chained to the earth, and
Yeah.
so that yeah, they take a little bit of blame here.
Yeah, I mean, I would also be quite mad if I was a crippled god, because he got like torn from wherever he was, and then like torn into pieces, and then he got chained. So it's like, you know.
Well, I think they described him as an explorer or something. So he was coming, exploring, checking out, and then all of a sudden they pulled him down.
Yeah.
So it's a little his own fault.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if
there was some element of being lured down too, right? I think
it was supposed was cultists or something that tried to lure him down for defeating Calor, I guess. But maybe he's supposed to be like a Cthulhu sort of eldritch god sort of power. Is that what they're alluding to?
Yeah, but then why did they chain him? I think it's because he was a threat, right?
It seems like he was some kind of, he was from somewhere else, some other world, some other something, and he was exploring. He came close, and then these wizards who didn't like Calor summoned him down. But then in the process of it, he apparently, I don't know, broke apart, because not all of them fell on Jekaruku. And then we don't really know what happened until, I think it was probably a couple thousand years later, right? When the chaining actually happens. So we don't, there's kind of like a gap. We don't know, but we do know that eventually he gets chained to Burn. I mean, essentially. So yeah, there's some gaps in like what actually is going on, what happened. Like, why did they chain him? I don't know. Did they just assume he was going to be evil and awful, or was he already poisoned with anger? I don't know. Like, and I'm not sure it tells us.
Is it maybe that he was expected to chaos or something, and they knew that chaos would destroy their warrants, their sorcery?
Yeah, they did mention that he pulls on the Chaos Warren,
Okay,
and
that's
that
interesting.
and there was somebody else who did that too, and I can't remember who it was though.
So they don't just fear him because he might be angry. They fear him because his magic comes from something that is poisonous, essentially, to the rest of them.
Yeah, and the poison is that of chaos.
Okay,
And so
that's interesting. I
that
didn't catch that at
in
all.
and of
That's cool.
itself
That
is
makes sense.
that in and of itself is poisonous to burn and other
Okay.
magic as well. Yeah.
But then did they not realize that
That goes a long way to
bringing to Burn's body, he's going to poison Burn and kill Burn eventually? It's
Yeah, well, you know,
little
they
strange.
had to think a few 100,000 years in the future, you know? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, it took hundreds of thousands of years to poison her, so
Okay, fair.
it was, something they would have to deal with later on.
Well, I still say that the crippled god did nothing wrong. Until now. I don't know.
Yes.
At this point, I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem like he's done anything wrong. I mean, he's been chained to Burn. He didn't have any say in that. They just did it to him. He's poisoning her, but it's because they chained him to her. So he's, at this point, I will agree with you and say he hasn't done anything wrong. At least that we've seen.
Well, but he's actively poisoning the Warrens right now as well. Like, I guess maybe his power has grown, or
I mean, what would you do in his standpoint, probably?
I don't know.
Yeah. That's not necessarily his fault. That's just because he's there.
That made him an enemy.
He didn't.
Right now.
Well, they do suspect he's active in the activities of the Penny and Seer.
Yeah.
Which is a very bad thing going on.
That's true. Well, and we saw him early on with Quickben, and he is an asshole. I mean, there's no arguing that, I don't think. I mean, he came off as a real asshole.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he tried to kill our boy Quickben.
I guess.
Yeah. I would
I don't know,
probably
just,
be one
just
too.
kill him at that point. Why, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. It seems like all bad things happen to him, and now he wants vengeance, and they don't even want to let him do that.
Because it would kill everyone.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the solution then?
Yeah. The most powerful bit in that conversation for me between Drake and Brood, was it between them? Damn it, I don't remember who said what. I just remembered things like vague notions. But they talk about how Burn doesn't care which of it is, right? Like if she survives, she'll just start over. And in whatever option that heals Burn requires the destruction of humanity, or like all the races on the planet. And
I think she doesn't want to die, though. I think she wants to be free of crippled god.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's why they said Caladan refuses her. He refuses to break the chains because it would kill the world.
I was going to say, yeah. So is that why Caladan hasn't freed her yet? Is because at this point she would just wipe out everything because she'll be all right. Nobody else will, but she'll be all right.
Yeah. The crippled god will probably go on a rampage. Yeah. Sorry.
Is it a parallel to like global warming? And be like, well, Earth will still be there, but we will still be dead.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a, and we talked before about the parallel with climate change because of the rising temperature or something that burns fever, right? And I guess there is a certain thread about it's fine if humans die, Earth will pick up again and carry on, right? Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that. Like the races on the planet need the planet more than the planet needs them, or doesn't need them at all. But yeah, I think there is an element of betrayal there too, right? Because Quickpen finds out about this hammer and then thinks that, Caladan Brood, the spirit of Burn, was made into that hammer. And then Brood turned around and refused to use it, which I think maybe the contract was, I'll give you this hammer and you use it to free me. And he's like, screw that. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That was a good conversation between two very powerful people. I did wonder that scene was also interesting because I don't think we were in either of their heads, which is unusual for just Erikson's writing in general. I think we're always from somebody's point of view, or in their head, or at least looking at a scene like from somebody's point of view.
Hmm.
But in this one, I don't think we were in either head.
Cool. All right.
Cool. Thanks, Jarrod. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
And yeah, so then back to the table and Paran's journey into the Azad houses. That was cool, right?
Hmm.
I love the tie back. I think it was Silver Fox giving Paran the lecture before about how the houses and the holes and the Azad houses are all tied together, and the Azad houses. Was that when we found out also that every Azad house has an entry point to all the warrens? And so so Paran was able to one randomly step into an Azad house, and then we meet some characters from the previous books with Reist. That man that we were terrified of. How cool was it to see him so docile? And there was another interesting thing here too. Uh, I think it's Reist. He tells Paran that the dead house got Dancer and Shadow Throne as whatever, some protectors of the house or whatever, I think. But the one in Darujistan hasn't decided it needs them. So in some ways, I think Shadow Throne and Cotillion's power comes from the Azad house or is powered by the Azad house somehow, it seems. Like, or they have some connection to it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, SF houses are connected somehow to Warren and to the god, but I guess we don't know yet exactly how. Right?
Yeah. I think we only know as much as Tatasale told Paran at this point.
Well, we learned a lot in chapter 4 about how, the Azath houses seem to represent the houses of the deck of dragon. But there's also something more, because during this, Perrin seems to find his way to the some kind of the beast hold or something, which isn't in the House of Dragons or the deck of dragons, but it seems to be. I think he describes it as what the IMAS worship before they did the whole ceremony and became Talon IMAS. So we don't really know a whole lot of that, though. There's I think it says there's 2 thrones and they're empty, and it's like they just left. However, we don't really know. It could have been centuries ago.
Yeah. I thought that was really poignant about how the Tilanimas outlived their gods, and maybe they even contributed to the death of their gods to a certain extent. And is this where we also find out that the Tilan Warren did not exist before, that it was created by the ritual itself? And before that, I guess the beast hold is what powered the Imas. Before, that was the Warren of the Imas. Like the Warren of Ice, I guess, is the Warren of Jagged.
Well, was the Talan Warren created then? Because the Talan Warren is it seems like just fire. And so that seems pretty, I don't know, primal, in the same way that the Jagcut Warren of Ice is very primal. So is there? Well, I guess technically
Yeah,
there's a Warren of Light. So I guess maybe that would have something to do with it. I'm not sure.
yeah, that's an interesting question, but I think that was knowledge that we were given in this section, that the I forget if again I forget what point in this chapter it came up, but I think that
Yeah.
the Tilan Warren was
Well,
apparently created
what do we
during
know
the
about
ritual.
the? No, you're probably right, because I think what we know of the primal kind of Warrens, there was dragons, darkness, shadow, and light, and then and ice, and then I guess the sixth one maybe around would be this one, the Talon, the fire, right?
Maybe.
I think that's kind of what's been described so far. And then eventually there's all the ones that the humans can use, which came along later.
Yeah.
I don't know where I know this from, but I thought the Talon Warren was shattered by the ritual, and there are like different versions of it now. So maybe that one that Baron visited was, I don't know, the original one from back when Planimas were still mortal, and that
It was. I mean, because they kind of described it as the Beast Warren, and I'm trying to bite my tongue a little bit. I mean, we've been given enough in the book to kind of know where this is and who was sitting on those thrones, but it hasn't been spelled out exactly quite yet. So no, it definitely predates all of this. But we don't have a name for like a warren for it. It's just, I think in this they just call it the Beast Hold.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the Tilan Warren was separate from the Beast Hold, but it's possible that the Beast Warren got shattered or broke in some way and became the
Yeah.
Tilan Warren, or the Tilan Warren is a piece of something else that was
No, the
whole,
Talon
like
Warren.
you said.
Yeah, when they did the ritual, they definitely replaced this because, like you said, they outlived their own gods. So they used to worship this, and then they did the ritual, and then now they're the Talon Mass, and they're fire, basically aspected or whatever. Even though they're undead, but whatever.
I think
this
dust, right?
Sorry.
Like it mentions dust quite a lot.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That apparently the aspect is dust, which goes back to the
That's right.
lifelessness
I
of
forgot
it,
about that.
and that's why Tatasale was needing to draw life from Maib because the Warren is lifeless and dust.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting lore that I kind of have to like bookmark this chapter and keep coming back to it as we learn more about the world.
Well, here's a question. So we know Silver Fox is the first living bonecaster in, I don't know, 100,000 years or whatever, since before the whole IMAS thing. Wouldn't she be pulling on this hold? Because wouldn't this be what the before IMAS Talon be pulling on to be bonecasters?
That's true.
I don't know.
So I see what you're asking, I think. So I believe the what she tells us, the conversation between Maib and Kaladin Brood, it goes something like this, and that was pretty brilliant too. That people draw life from, I guess, their history, and she and I guess all their relatives and so on. It was sort of a metaphorical drawing of life that she was talking to, which is now translating physically for Silver Fox. But the support system and their background, history, etc., everything that they have is what they draw life from, which Silver Fox doesn't have because the Tilan are all undead, and she, the Maib, is her only family, and that's the only person she has access to. So yeah.
So she should be pulling on this, but she's not because of this break
Maybe.
that they
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
Because and I'm kind of in my back of my mind, I'm kind of thinking of Kilava, who we met in the prologue, Tool's sister.
Right, and
And I'm thinking she was a bone caster. She would have been pulling on the beast hold.
That's true.
But yeah, maybe there's maybe because of the gap, that's why we got the maybe or maybe happening. Because then there's nobody on the throne here. You know, when Perrin goes there, there's nobody there. It's empty. It's so because of that, maybe that's why the situation with Mabe and Silverfox is happening.
That there's nobody there on the throne? Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's nobody there. Like, it's empty. Like,
yeah. Yeah, maybe there's no power left or nothing to support the drawing of it. Yeah, I don't know how warrants work very well. So
we should keep reading and we'll get the answers here, right?
Yeah. Agreed. I found the quote to support my inept summary. It's bloodhound lives. What? Bloodbound. Jeez. Bloodbound lives are the web that carries each of us. They make up that which a life climbs, from newborn to child, then child to adulthood. Without such life forces, one withers and dies. To be alone is to be ill, Warlord, not just spiritually but physically as well. I am my daughter's web, and I am alone in that. So, I mean, I guess that's the explanation for why she's drawing so much. Like, if she had a bigger web of blood to draw from, she'd probably not pull so much from the mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she's the only one who's alive among the Planimas, right?
Yeah. She's the only one.
Except for the ones who refuse the ritual. But
yeah, we don't know that there are very many of them. We just know of Kilava at this point. I don't know if there are any others. But there was one other thing about Silver Fox and the Maib, which was interesting, that for all that, like, she's got these 3 personalities that are fighting for control within her. But the Maib tells her at some point that most of you is me, right? Like, I make the biggest component of who you are. So she, like, I think asking her to exercise judgment in some regard, she tells her, and I thought that was really powerful too, because all of that, like, you do sort of give life to your children in the sense that you see yourself in them. And given that this is a child possessed by multiple souls who have nothing to do with her whatsoever, the fact that she still sees herself in Silver Fox, I think I thought that was really beautiful and sweet.
I agree.
Yeah. What else? We move on to, I think we sort of covered this chapter. Are we ready to
The only
talk
thing
about
left is I do got a note that says they take the table into battle with them because they think Perrin might need it. I thought that was kind of an interesting little bit. Like,
the table was just
Perrin might need.
Yeah, the table was his entryway into the Azath houses, right? So he might need to do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, might need to go. Oh, and we kind of skipped. They when he goes to the Finnest house before he meets Race, he sees Vorkin and Ralik Nam.
Yes.
Like, passed out in the entryway.
Mm-hmm.
So and Race is really kind of cool about it all. I was like, well, I didn't need them, so they're just laying there.
Yeah.
And so just to lay that out, they're still laying there. I mean, that may or may not come back within the next couple books. Few books.
Yes.
Many books.
Many books.
Yeah.
I thought the conversation between Race and Paran was hilarious.
It was good. I loved Race. Like, I love Erikson's Talon, or not Talon, the Jaghut. Like, they're just so dry.
Yeah.
And their humor is so dry, and it's just, And yeah, like this is the first time I think we really see it
Mm.
with Raced. It's just like, yeah, it's just this kind of like flat, dry humor, and I just find him hilarious.
Yeah,
And
it's
also, I
quite
think
brilliant.
Like this was the main villain of the first book, and like here he shows up and he's just being flat and funny, and I'm just like, this is great.
and Paran matches that dry humor perfectly as well. I think Paran
Mhm.
is himself very, very funny and has a great sense of humor. So that
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
conversation between them
Agree.
is great.
Yeah, he's certainly able to hold his own when people are being funny, mean to him, or just mean to him even.
Yeah.
Like how he deals with the soldiers too, right? I think we talked in earlier episodes about how Paran has been finding it difficult to find respect among his soldiers, and I think what he did with the table has certainly earned him some. Now they will take him more seriously,
So yeah,
but
now he's the master of the deck, right?
that too, yes,
Whatever that means.
Mhm.
that too, yes. He says, well, Rice says that he'll kill Paran just out of sheer irritation if he takes him this far, and he refuses to move forward. and and uh and then, and then Paran says, "Oh, I'm gonna go on by myself from here. How will I cope?" And Rice says, "Miserably, if there's any justice in the world." And and when Paran asks, "And is there?" he says, "You're asking that of a Jagged." What answer are you expecting? Yeah, that whole exchange was brilliant. And I love that, like, this is the other thing that Erikson does so well, that this is such a tense moment, right? Paran has disappeared into the Azath house. We have no idea what's going on with him. We just have this information that he's the master of the deck. We don't know what that entails. And he's wandering somewhere. We don't know if he'll get out of there. And then, like, there's this funny conversation with this tyrant from the first book.
Yeah, you're right. Especially like coming from that really tense scene where, Anamandarake almost unsheathed Dragnipur and
That's
Kaladin
right.
Brew is reaching for the hammer and Silver Fox is mad because Anamandarake tried to probe her mind or whatever.
Mm.
And then like the table appears and we are taking to this, finished house where Raised and Paran are just, exchanging humorous comments, and we have no idea what's going on back in that camp, right? It's really, really interesting how the pace changes.
Yeah, I agree. It's absolutely brilliant. And it works, right? It's a smooth transition too. It's not like coming out of nowhere or breaking the tone or the mood. Like, it just fits. Yeah, it's
I
quite
always
brilliant.
wondered if that appearance of the table at that exact moment that was, very tense and close to a catastrophe happening, if that was whose doing was that? Like, was it the deck of dragons kind of intervening, or was it Krappa kind of
Yeah.
saving the situation? Because the timing is perfect, right? Like, there is a disaster going to happen if they fight, or if Dragnipur and the hammer collide or whatever. So I always wondered who is responsible, or if it was just a lucky coincidence.
Yeah, my money's on Krupp because the table came out with Krupp attached to the to one of the legs of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he looked completely innocent, which means he's definitely been up to something. Oh, and I love how that conversation ends too with, with Krupp asking it, "Does anyone else want dinner?" Yeah, I love Krupp. But yes, moving on. I think we're ready to talk about.
Sorry about that, guys. I need to go. Something
Okay,
happening.
see you, Dan.
Sorry. Yeah.
Bye. Let's talk about Grantel and Geruli and the Bargast. We meet the Bargast.
Let's go to Saltowan.
Yes, that city, whose name I haven't learned to pronounce yet. Probably won't because they left already.
Yeah, I think it's the only time this city shows up is this one chapter.
Yeah.
I liked the inclusion that to get into the city. There's an alley that's so close that the caravans get stuck in it, and then the citizens will like attack it and just take stuff because that's how we roll in Saltoan.
Yeah.
Definitely tells you how this city is going to be like.
Yeah. I love that line about the city having two hearts and they're both equally corrupt. And there was some metaphor for corruption that I forget what it was. Anyway, yeah, so Keruli is apparently buying the loyalty of the thieves in that city for something. Do we know what for?
Say it again.
Do we know what Gruntel's master is up to in that city?
Karuli is there to meet with the I don't know, crime lords essentially. To kind because the Panian Domain has sent priests to the city to kind of
Oh, that's right.
try to set it up for conversion. I guess would be a nice way of saying it. And he said, and so yeah, Karuli's there to meet with the warlords, and he's like, you need to get rid of these guys, not by just killing them, but through, I don't know, counterintelligence and words. Like, like you need to combat these guys by, combating what they say. Because they're coming and telling you, oh, everything's great in the Panian domain, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, if you're ethnically from one of the cities, you have all the rights. But if you're not, then you're just going to end up with one of the Tenascowry. And you have no rights. You're nothing. So you need to combat them like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember now. It's just you'll be told a bunch of lies. Don't believe them. And spread the word for us. Nice. Yeah. And then we move on from there and they find out bad things have happened to Bocklane and Corbel Broach's wagon. And they've been attacked by.
Well, while we're still in Saltoan,
Yes.
I gotta say, one thing that really does bug me about Erikson and his writing pops up is with Stani and Nectara, and just kind of like I don't know, I don't want to call it pervy humor, but it bugs me. Like, and it just really bugged me in this chapter. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And it kind of continues with what's her name? Hetton. When Hetton shows up, and she sleeps with Gruntle, and then she sleeps or maybe sleeps with
Harlow.
what's his name? Harlow. I don't know. That I gotta say is the first time I'm kind of like, this bugs me about the writing. Like I just didn't like it.
Yeah,
like
it does
I
get
don't
a
know.
little bit sexual at times during
Yeah.
series,
Yeah.
maybe unnecessarily. So I don't know. I guess
Maybe, and that's the word, unnecessarily so. I think that's what bugs me about it. Like,
right.
this was unnecessary. Like, why are we doing this?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. I love this chapter except for this one bit with Nectara and Stony, and then again with Hetton. Like, that just bugged me. Because, like, I don't need this to be the one, personality trait of these women is that they're, I don't know, just want to fuck.
Yeah, do you think maybe that's like a twist on, like, because it's the women who are like that in this book, not the men, right? And
you could argue, yeah, maybe Hetton is kind of like a girl Conan. I mean, you could say that, like that. There's something to that, because, but I don't know. It just didn't set well with me. That's just me.
also, I think maybe like Erikson tries like so that every character has something. Like Krappe is brilliant and weird and likes space trees, and then Hetton likes sex, and that's just her thing, right? So, like, I guess when you try to give every character something, you might need to go there as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I sort of agree that the scenes made me a little uncomfortable, but I'm trying to think about the reason why they could have been included. Maybe I don't know about the Stunny Tara scene. Other than to maybe
I'm
establish
almost
some
a
kind
little
of
more okay with the
character.
Hetton
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other than to maybe establish
Sonny is
some
just kind
character.
of
Yeah.
like hateful to everybody. Like, but that's Stani's character at this point, is that she's just kind of hateful. Like,
Hmm.
which I kind of like her, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, she's kind of awful to everybody, but I kind of like her. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed thrown in. I didn't care for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hetton I can kind of forgive more because, like Mirka pointed out, yeah, maybe that's part of the character being built in.
Yeah, it could also be sort of a culture thing, right? That he's maybe exploring. I don't know. But it feels like a culture that's maybe more free with sex than what Gruntle and maybe the readers are used to, and that I don't want to say representation. I don't think that's the right word, but maybe exploring the freedom in being like that, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. But overall, I
don't know.
with Hethan's character, I went from feeling icky to, oh, that's funny, uh, over a short period of time. But uh,
Also, when you kind of consider that
Yeah,
the
overall, I liked
inclusion-
Hetton.
sorry,
Say it again.
I was gonna say it's also interesting when you think about the fact that she's covered in mud, in like
yeah,
a sticky,
and
slicky
Greece.
mud,
Yeah.
grease.
Yes.
So then, like,
And the grease.
Grease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess grease is the right
Yeah.
word, not the mud. Yeah,
And
but yeah, that
Ugh.
gives the visual even
Mhm.
more
yeah,
picture.
yeah. It feels very animalistic, doesn't it? And yeah,
Mhm.
I know Erikson explores cultures that are considered maybe savages and like makes us look in at them in different ways. This I don't know, maybe this is one of those. But moving on, the Boccolane and Corbel brooch wagon. I mean, I celebrated a little bit when that broke down. I mean, I don't really have reason to hate them, but I was like, yeah, these people were a little too sure of themselves. And then they went inside and saw a put together human, apparently, with I guess an inside out human.
Actually, I did want to say, I think it's kind of interesting. I'm reading this from the future kind of perspective. Is we're reading this and Bachlan and Corporal Broach seem awful. Like, we know like one of them is literally a serial killer. You know, that was in Drujistan and then in Saltoan. And we know that there's going to be short stories about these guys in the future. And it's kind of like, huh, like, am I going to want to read about these guys? Like, they're awful. At least, I don't know, at least one of them are. Which one's the killer? Cobble Broach? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, like I think Bachman's kind of the, I don't know, intellectual one, and Cobra Broach is the killer. But yeah, I just think it's so interesting the way that they're setting that up in this book. And then I think, from our perspective, the next book we're going to read is Blood Follows, which is one of their short stories.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that too. It seems what's interesting though is that their awfulness is really highlighted. Like Emancipor Reese is that
Mm-hmm.
like it was a choice between staying at home with my wife and and hanging out with these guys.
That was funny. And I think maybe that's kind of a tease to these short stories, is we meet Emancipator Reese, who we kind of already, I don't want to call him an everyman, but like, yeah, he's going to be our kind of buffer, maybe, or potentially could be our buffer between Bachlan and Corporal Broach, and I don't know, our feelings. is we'll see Emancipator Reese, which is the everyman thrown into him.
Yeah. It's yeah, exactly. I'm kind of hoping that Emancipor Reese is sort of the main character in those books, or at least in some of them. We'll see. I am looking forward to those. Everyone talks about how funny they are. But
You've never read any of them, right?
no, none of them. Have you read any,
Okay.
Mirka?
Well, then,
I think I read one. I don't quite remember which one, and I remember I wasn't that impressed. But maybe if I gave it another chance, it would be different.
Yeah.
I'm curious to find out.
Yeah, we're reading in publication order, so Blood Follows will be next after we finish Memories of Ice. So that's something to look forward to, I guess.
yeah.
But right. So
I'm trying to bite my tongue. Some of them I really like, some of them I don't. We'll get there when
yeah,
we get there.
we'll get there when we get there. So we find out what attacked the wagon. Wait, before that, we find an emptied former grave of the Bargast people. And I guess that's the spirit that Boklane and Corbel Broch have awakened for their experiment.
What they call it? Stick snare.
Yeah,
right?
stick snare. Right.
So yeah, so we learned that the Barghast bury trees upside down over bodies to capture the spirit, and then they call them stick snares, and that's what Bachler and Corbel Broach, I guess, had stopped to see when they were attacked.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought that was the stick snare thing. I thought was really interesting. I'm really sorry Steve's not here. It reminded me so much of
Hairlock,
of
right?
his favorite character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I may have mistaken a stick snare for Hairlock a few times in this series. Anyway, yeah, so that was some interesting information about the Bargas people and their rituals, and also that's how so we find out also why these three are here. The three Bargas, like the three Segule, these three are here because they saw demons come. I think their shamans, their shoulder men, dreamed about them, about the demons, and they came looking for them.
Something like that, yeah.
And we get a bit of a description of these guys with swords for arms. And yeah, and I guess
I actually, hey, I got the description right
yes,
here.
gimme.
I wrote it down. So, fast on two legs, talons like an eagle's, only much larger. At the end of those legs, their arms are blades. There are sword, and hold on, I wrote that. Bladed blood iron. Their eyes are hollow, and here's where you get to the undead part. They stink of urns in the dark circle. They make no sound at all. So yeah, so they're undead, and then from what they describe and what we see later, I mean, they're I think they're velociraptors. I mean, I'm pretty sure Erikson has straight up said that, and then with big sword arms, which I've described as velociraptors meet a Cuisinart.
That's fun.
I mean, I love these things. I love these things so much. I don't know, like Erikson. Between I go back to the first book with Anamana Rake. They introduce him, and you've got this like dark elf with this like big sword that can like capture people's spirits and chain them to a wagon, and it sounds so stupid, but yet it's so cool. Like, it's unironically like metal. Like, I don't know how he pulls it off, but it sounds like it just shouldn't work, but it's so cool. And the same thing with these Kachane Shamal. Like, they sound stupid, but yet they're so awesome, and I love them so much.
Especially once
the
you know
demons.
that they were actually like intelligent creatures that lived in cities and had technology and stuff like that, which I hope we know about that at this point, or maybe
yeah, there's a Kachane
has been
Shamal
hinted.
city that
in the intro they had.
Go ahead. Shannon.
We knew that they were one of the elder races, right? Like they told us that in the prologue. This is one of the elder races of this world. We don't know much beyond that, but yeah, they had cities because that's what they find in the prologue. This is a Kachane Shamal tower. Well, it's a Jagat tower and a Kachane Shamal city.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
but I guess,
so we know that they had some kind of society.
Yeah, but it's easy to think of them of just like killing machines, right? Like someone created them with the purpose of combat because they have swords for arms, but actually that's not it. Like they were not just killing machines, they were a civilization actually, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, these ones, and that's kind of interesting because in the prologue we learn these are one of the other races and they exist. However, the ones that we meet in this chapter are undead.
Hmm.
So that kind of like, what's going on? Like that does raise a pretty big question of like, we don't know, like, because these ones are clearly undead and they're just attacking our
Right.
protagonists.
Yeah, maybe these ones are.
So we don't know. Yeah. So we'll, hopefully we'll learn some. Hopefully we'll meet some more later on. But yeah. But that does raise a question: what's going on? Since we just have undead ones showing up here.
Yeah. And so far, undead for us has been the Telanimas. Are these the same kind of undead or a different kind of undead? Probably different, but we don't know yet.
Well, now that you guys pointed out to me that Talon is dust, it makes me wonder, like, are they really that different, except they just don't have that attachment to dust that the Talanamas do? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe they're quite similar, just they can't, turn into dust, like the same way that Talanamas do.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Could be similar magic. Yes. Okay. I guess I'll bring that up when we actually get there. But there's.
And we do learn in chapter 6 that the Panian seer is controlling them. They do make that explicit. Karuli realizes that so these do have something to do with the Panian domain.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know what yet.
Right.
But they are being controlled.
And
so eventually they. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say they attack and we don't know what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's how the chapter ends.
Granted.
No, it's actually left on. Yeah, I was gonna say this chapter leaves off on quite a cliffhanger. Like the attack, we don't see any of our main characters die, but we don't know, except Gruntle, who seems to be very injured. But it just leaves off. Like, and I'm like, oh man. So you guys are welcome for not reading on, because I actually wanted to keep reading. I'm like, man, this was a hard stop point.
Yeah, it really is. But I'm trying to remember whether we actually pick up from this, and if I remember correctly, we start in a completely different city in the next chapter.
Most likely, yeah. That's kind of that's the MO of these books. Next chapter should be somewhere else entirely, and then we'll catch up with Gruntle in maybe a chapter or two.
Yeah. So reading on was not going to be rewarding. Well, at least for this the answer to this question. So I think that's that for chapter 6. I'm so sorry, Mika. I realized that we didn't talk about your topic, which was Anomander Rick's arrival to the camp. Did we? Yeah.
No, that's fine. I think we mentioned it. I guess I mostly wanted to talk about the table and like the events following. No worries.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
I think the arrival itself was not as important as what followed.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Glad we managed to cover that. Was there anything else that we should discuss? Any other interesting events in these chapters?
Well, I did want to point out we kind of skipped over it. So Krupp who shows up as you were very excited, but not just him, but all of our Darujistan boys show up. Murillo's there, Cole's there, and I forget his name, but Chalice's father's there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Diarl or Diariel, Darl. I don't know. Apparently he knows Cole, and they're all showing up. So we have basically all of our Darujistan people showing up. I thought that was really cool because I like Murillo and Cole a lot. I know you love Krupp, but I like the other two.
Yeah, I like them all, but I Krupp is my favorite by far. I love the reunion between Baran and Cole.
Oh, and Oh, and Chalice is apparently getting married. They do mention that she's engaged to somebody who saved her during the whole end of the first book.
Yeah. Krupp is like, I'm sorry to have missed that feast.
Oh, and speaking of love and relationships, we actually get the first hints of the Whiskey Jack and Corlat thing going on, right? I think there is something like...
Well, Corlat keeps like staring at him, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think Anoman the Rake kind of, or maybe Cloud and Brood mentions something like, I can...
You're speaking from your heart.
Yeah, you're speaking from your heart or something like that.
Yeah. I underlined that.
Oh. And she doesn't disagree or anything. She's just like, well, yeah, that's why it's important, right? So
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah, she says, I don't take those matters lightly, so you should take me seriously here. So...
And looking at my notes, I realized I was wrong. So I said none of our characters died when the when our velociraptors attacked, but I was wrong. Hetton's brother dies.
Oh yeah.
We do see the youngest brother. What's his name? Netok. Netok dies. So that is, he's not really one of our main characters, but still attached to our characters. Oh, actually, I did want to talk about this. I forgot. So Bachlan starts talking about the Barghast, and he because so Hetton, she's one of the Barghast. They show up. We've heard of them before. Who are these people? And I thought this was really, really interesting. Was he talks about them and he says, you guys are basically not growing. You aren't like some great culture that fell into barbarism. You're just barbarians, and you always have been.
Yeah, you're stagnated.
Your culture is on. Yep, your culture is on all these different continents, and it's basically the same. Your people used to be seafarers, so that's how they ended up on all these places. Talking about Hetton being kind of a girl Conan. I mean, this is, I thought, really clearly. I mean, basically, Stephen Erikson taking not Conan, but the Picts. I don't know if you guys have ever read any Conan, but in the Conan books, there's the Picts, which in Robert D. Howard were basically they were this barbarian people that were always barbarian. Like they were never like Conan. His people were originally the Atlanteans that kind of fell into barbarianism. These guys, the Picts, always barbarians. Like never more, never less, just always this barbaric people. And that's what the Barghast are, at least according to Bachlan. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, so they've spread out on all these continents, always kind of a barbaric people. And I don't know. I thought that was cool.
So I wondered, who are their barbarian counterparts on other continents? Do we know some of them? Do you think like
I don't know if we've seen any yet. Maybe. Well, the Trell seems something different.
Yeah.
Right, they're like trolls, right? Essentially, or something from like when you talk about traditional fantasy. Because, yeah, I don't know about the Trell. Let's see. Yeah, because at this point, all we've read is Seven Cities and Genebacus. So in Genebacus, they're the Barghast. Seven Cities, I don't know. I don't got nothing. I can kind of maybe think some people talking about Esselmont books, but I'm not going to talk about that here. I don't know.
Maybe some of those like old desert tribes described in the Varaku parts.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the Barghast say, okay, so they're seafaring, and then from what we see, they have like I don't know, nature, like trees, burying trees upside down, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, essentially, kind of Viking in a way. I'm really not sure off the top of my head.
Okay, we'll see, I guess.
I wouldn't really think some of the Seven City tribes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was interesting that Boklane mentioned Bargast from his own continent too. So yeah. But yeah, was there anything else? Also, we didn't do quotes. I think I read mine as we were talking through, but do you guys have any
Hey, look,
quotes?
yeah. Let me check real quick. I don't know if I had any more than what we said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, in the reading of the cards, they also talk about a grand deception being at work, which I guess is the thing that Bust and Co were working on in Deadhouse Gates, right? I hear
What'd
your
you say?
heart in your words. That was brewed to Colette.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think her response is like the one that I remember was like so cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know, how like she didn't blush or anything. She just like owned it.
Yeah, I like that. Less cause to doubt me then, Caledon. I am not careless in such matters.
Yeah.
So in chapter 6, they talk about the Teniscowry. I see one of my quotes is "Children of the Dead Seed." Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. So we learn in this chapter apparently the Teniscowry are not only cannibals, but potentially the women have sex with corpses
Hmm.
and then have babies.
Yes.
So yeah, Children of the Dead Seed. That's pretty messed up.
Yes, it is. And I've been very curious from when I first read this if that's something that's actually possible or if it's a fantasy thing.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see when we get there in a couple more chapters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe somebody that's dying, like not quite dead, but dying. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah. Because
Oh, that's pretty grody.
it is very grotesque. It is the kind of thing that, makes your skin crawl. But also, where
Mhm.
did this idea even come from? I know a lot of the things that feel like this Erikson gets from real life. Like the blood flies from the previous
Yeah.
book said,
Oh yeah.
I think there are
Yeah,
actual, sorry,
you thought he couldn't get any worse than cannibals, but
yeah.
yeah, then
Mhm.
they start having babies from dead people.
Yeah, there's that too.
Of course, I listed it as one of my quotes. So what does that say? Let's see. Yeah, Children of the Dead Sea. That creeped me out. Let me see. I don't think I had any more quotes. Yeah, beyond that. Let me double check real quick. Chapter 6, 5. Yeah, I already said most of them that I said. And then 6. That's not really a quote. I liked how Carlo would point out he'd be shocked if Stoney had a child. I wrote that down as a quote. I thought that was kind of funny. Let's see. Chapter 6. Swords, the light blades are fused with creatures' wrists. That's just a description of the them. So yeah, no, I don't think I got any more quotes beyond that.
I think my highlights continue to be for information rather than quotes
Yeah,
per se.
ditto.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, both these chapters had a lot of information.
Yeah, same. I think that's also why it's necessary to do them in shorter chunks because there's so much to discuss. Maybe when the action kicks up, we will read more per week. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, we will be discussing chapters 7 and 8 next week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.